Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Eugene Sorenson. I will be your host today for our 5th webinar on the release of the ChartIQ library, this one bringing you version 7.5. This is our anniversary event. We did this for the first time, I think it was actually towards the end of April last year, but very pleased that so many of you have been able to join us over the course of the past year, and will hopefully continue to join us. Very excited about our topic today of moving beyond time series. I do want to take a moment to, again, appreciate all of you for attending during this difficult time. I know that all of us are working from home and have no friends, family who have gotten COVID. Hope for your sake that they've all recovered. But it's been a difficult time, and my thoughts go out to you, and thank you for attending again. Let's go ahead and dive into our webinar today. So if you did not hear my opening there, I am now talking. So please click on the 3 vertical ellipses to set your audio. Welcome to Cinco de Mayo. I hope you all can take a moment this evening to enjoy a Mexican beer. Maybe you'll go for the Negra Modelo or the Dos Equis instead. But really hope you can enjoy some time with your family. Quick announcement, I am pleased to now be serving as Chief Product Officer here at ChartIQ. Really excited about this opportunity, as I believe it leverages the experience that I've had throughout my career. During our conversations together, in person and through these webinars, you know that I started my career as a technical analyst, joined CQG, and then on to Cantor Fitzgerald and Bloomberg, where I oversaw all the graphics development on the terminal. While there, I also oversaw the Launchpad Smart Desktop. For those of you who don't know Bloomberg, the Launchpad Desktop is really a set of components, different applications that are all bound together and allow each user to build their own bespoke workflow to their needs. And in many ways, Finsambl resembles that at a higher level. So it allows you to pull together your different third-party applications and make your digital transformation into the future as you're trying to build application by application and get them into the state they need to be to support your end users. Bloomberg, of course, can be one of those applications that you integrate into your desktop. So that's why I say it's Launchpad at a higher level, solving the entire desktop workflow problem. So we at ChartIQ, our focus going forward is really to bring a lot of the benefits that we have in charting and the capabilities in Finsambl and bring those together. So you're going to start seeing in future weeks and months some announcements, some product enhancements where each product benefits from the other. So please stay tuned to that. And we will actually have some webinars you saw on the front page. I'll talk about them more at the end today. All right, our topic of the day, moving beyond time series term structured charts. If you attended back in January, which I hope you did, you heard that we did a beta release of our term structured chart. It is now a production application. Key features that were missing at that time was displaying multiple curves and spreads on curves, and we now have those capabilities with the spreads providing a very interesting dynamic experience, which I'll show you in a video here in just a second. And key point is the glowing data points there. You can see those highlight the recent data points as opposed to stale data points, those being the reliable ones, most recently updated. And I do, before I move into the video, I want to highlight to you that this chart, while we're focusing on yield curves and term structure, the chart will support any forward curve or futures strip or an options forward or options term structure. But not only the options term structure, you can also display on this plot a options volatility curve, or you could use it to do a payoff diagram. The key point here is the x-axis is built using something called a categorical axis. So really what you're doing is passing in an array of data label pairs. Labels are what is showing on as the values or labels, simply put, on the x-axis, and then your values. And so you could pass in a sector, say the auto sector, and look at revenues. So you have Ford, GM, Toyota, Tesla as your labels on the X, and then you'd see revenues. You wouldn't obviously connect those data points, they'd just be points or maybe columns displayed on the plot. So really a very flexible graphic, just like our time series, really trying to empower you, our client, to deliver the kinds of graphics and solve the use cases and problems that your end users have. Let's take a look at that video. All right, I'm going to want to pause this along the way here. There we go. All right, so you can see we highlight the data points. Okay, we're going to start over again. There we go. So highlights the data point, shows you when that timestamp was. There's the glowing data point. There's the data points coming in real time. Again, it's glowing now. That can be set up here using the recent updates of how long you want those to glow. We also can turn off the shading that we use to sort of indicate the somewhat logarithmic. Now we switch to a fixed width, fixed spacing x-axis, used more for a futures or forward curve. We're going to go back to term structure for this demo. Switch over, click to compare. Now we can either add an entity, so bring in maybe a AA curve if you wanted to. In this use case, we're going to go through a historical, bring up a curve from a month ago, all simulated data, of course. We're going to change the color of that plot to be something a little brighter. And then move down to the curve and select a data point. And you'll see now that the spreads, this is this interactive experience with the spreads. So we're analyzing spreads and term structures has typically been between curves, which we can do, and we'll show you in just a second as well, using a panel at the bottom. And we can also support that lower panel. But here you can put, you are able to see the value of the spread directly where your mouse is, right? Your eye follows the mouse on the screen. And so to be able to show you where that spread is without having to move your eye, that just simplifies the mental processing. No, tells you immediately what you're looking for. Quite pleased with the team for coming up with this solution. You'll see the next step, we're going to click on a second point, so I can bring up these spreads for more than one point. You could do it for many. Okay, so here we click on the 10-year. Now I can see my 2, 5, 10 butterfly. I can look at the other curve, see the spreads between those. And here, I just want to pause for one more second. What I did, right click on the data point, pops up a menu that could go into your go into a trade history, go into a ticket. We're going to launch a time series chart because, of course, that's our forte. So from here, drill right down into that. You could set this up so that it would actually open up multiple pull in. Let's say I had that 2, 5, 10. I wanted to pull in all of those. That could also be done. So here we're just going to click on pull in the 5-year, and we have our time series chart. So pretty cool, right? Whoops, so we started the video again. That's not what I wanted. Here we go. Okay, extending beyond time series once again. So pie charts. We have heard from our clients for quite a number of years. Why do we just do time series? And the reason is that time series are really the bread and butter of work in finance. It's the real workhorse, and it's also where a lot of the really hard problems lie in finance. You're dealing with streaming data, tens of thousands of points. You're trying to maintain your retrieval and match that up with the data that's coming in, all sorts of different challenges, as you well know, which is what we are purpose-built to solve. And we've long looked at it and said, hey, you can't really build a better pie chart. A chef might be able to bake a better pie, but hard to build a better pie chart. But we did hear your needs and your requests for that, for supporting those use cases. So we have integrated with d3js.org, and which is a free library. So if you're not familiar with it, go to d3js.org, see the spectrum of cases there. You can use that library. And the cool bit here I'm very excited about this. I think it's fantastic. Is then your quote feed that you're already using for your chart will then plumb directly into the graphics that you've got in D3. So you can end up with this great interoperable experience between your different graphics. Let's take a look at the video. All right, so we're going to look at the one on the left here. So client said, hey, I want to take those last values for each of my time series and plot them in a bar chart to give them greater emphasis and focus and relative value. So here is exactly that case, updating in real time. Moving to the next top right here, we've got a couple of pie charts overlaid on top of our time series chart. Use case could simply be, I want to see volume by venue. I want to see percentage of trade done above the mid price, below, how near far to my bid ask, right? You can think of an array of sort of different use cases that you might want to do this for. In this case, the key point I'm trying to focus on with the animation here is that those pie charts are linked to the data shown on the graph. So as you pan and zoom the data, it's updating the pie chart. So you get that great interoperable experience. Moving to our lower right, another pie chart down at the bottom right shows the data streaming in. And you can see how much is done on the bid, how much is done on the offer. So just another example of streaming data into a D3 graphic that is linked in to your ChartIQ quote feed. All right, focusing back on time series. As we have really stretched the use cases for the chart over the past couple of years, and we see people putting more different types of data in, one of the things that you will run into is outliers in those data sets. And obviously an outlier will severely distort the price series. That will flatline it and create a huge gap up to the value. Now, this doesn't happen so much with exchange traded data. You might see it a little bit more in FX or OTC, but even prices, it's not quite so common, but you'll see it definitely in volume. You'll see it today in, of course, your unemployment statistics, where it's just awful. Hopefully that returns back to a normal lower state very, very soon. So what we do to highlight the outlier is we put a little marker on the chart and we show you the value of that print. So in this case, if we look at the one on the top, you might be able to read there, it says 352. You'll see on the y-axis 102. Obviously a huge jump that would flatline everything here. So that's why we put the marker on. This is a switch, of course. The user can turn on and off in the display settings. And of course, you as app devs can control this. On the y-axis, again, we put in where you'd have a fractured y-axis. We draw that line, and we put in, again, a clickable marker. All these things are clickable. We'll see that in the video here. All right, here's your video. And whoops. And there we go. Here's the video. All right, and you can see those things all move, so that it tells the user that it's clickable. I then click on one. And you'll see now I see my points and my flat line data at the bottom. And I can then quickly restore it by clicking on the y-axis to bring it back to push the outliers out of the chart. Now here's a cool bit is we not only support outliers going up, we support outliers going down. So either direction, you can do that. Now, next piece is I'm going to drag the chart to the left to see earlier history, and you'll see that these markers and the fractured axis will automatically disappear off the chart. And there you go. So now you have a nice clean chart. Boom. So that is the new outliers capability, part of our TA module. The advanced charting is really what that's for. Also speaking to TA is our Elliott wave drawing tool. And we've had this request for quite a number of years. People saying, really want to make it easier to put Elliott annotations on the chart. If you're not an Elliottian, you're not terribly familiar with this. The challenge is that when an Elliott is drawing the waves and putting their counts on, they end up putting multiple things on at the same time. And if the tool isn't built to step through it, then it becomes just quite a hassle to draw these on the chart. So let's go ahead and take a look at the video, see how this works. All right, so it's in the technical section. There's the Elliott wave tool there. And then you can pick any style of wave count, how you want to mark it on the chart with both the impulse corrective waves, how it's going to be styled. In this case, we're going to draw one without lines. So you'll see one with lines in a moment. So just counting off the waves. That green section is your target where you can click. This prevents you, the tool prevents you from going 2 clicks in the same direction, right? So B can't be above A. If A is an up wave, B can't continue to go up. All right, let's add a second one. I'm going to change the color of it, change the style of the count, turn on the magnet mode, and we're actually going to turn on the lines as well. There we go. And this way now the lines are magnetized to the extreme points. There you go. You can see how we're just clicking through here. And now we have our ABC. All right, and so that is the new Elliott wave tool, part of the technical analysis module. Continuing in the idea of drawing tools is our new support for keyboard controls. So this is our first step in what will be a multi-phase project, but power users have been asking to activate their drawing tools simply from the keyboard. So we took the 6 most popular tools, set them up with keyboard commands, and allow those users to do that. Now, as I said, multi-phase project, we do intend and will be extending this to all of the drawing tools throughout the course of the year. And not only just activating them, but actually placing them, because what we really need to do and we'll be working on is full accessibility for the chart. First and foremost, that is around keyboard accessibility. So if you want any way that you want to navigate, if it's adding a study, adding a drawing tool, adding a line, moving it, all of those things need to be supported to provide full access to the chart for all users, regardless of how they're interacting with their computer. So that work is in research mode here in Q2. We'll see a lot more. We'll see the delivery of that in Q3 and Q4 of this year. If you have feedback or interest in accessibility, please let me know. As I said, we're researching it, so I'd love to get more input at this time. Another use case where our clients have struggled, particularly again as we extend beyond the classic technical analysis use case, has been to put a baseline histogram, that is something with a 0 value that goes up and down, as we see here in the lower panel, to put that on the chart. As the chart was purpose built for technical analysis, you weren't expecting other data series to come in that were going to be a positive, negative. A study might be, but no data series. So as we're really trying to solve making the chart a general purpose time series chart, this was a necessary case. Let me digress for just a moment, talk about the data shown on the screen. This is content provided by our friends over at BondClick. This is ExxonMobil bond, and what you're seeing is the bid-ask counts. So you're getting a pulse of the liquidity of this particular ExxonMobil issue. And then the lower plot is showing you the bias. So what we can see is there's clearly a heavy offer bias in this market. People are really looking to sell this particular bond during this window of time. great content set from BondClick. And then, as you can see, we've now able to support this new graphic rendering. All right, staying with the developer space, you'll recall back in January, we released our React component toolkit, and now we have followed that up with the Angular component toolkit. So really pleased to be able to support these two major frameworks that are very heavily used out there in the field by your teams. What is the advantage of a toolkit? Is it generally helps accelerate that development path, allows you to have the flexibility. We provide a couple hundred components that you can customize, so it makes it very fast to deliver that end product. We are continuing to build on web components. We will stay that way as we build out the web components. We can code once and then deploy to the different frameworks. As we built out the Angular kit, one of the things that we learned about our system, certainly I learned, our engineers may have known, but I learned, is that we actually had some information shared between the two different web components, which is not consistent with true framework architecture. So we've polished that all up, and each web component is now its own separate unit, uses the framework communication channel to allow those components to interact and work together. So really consistent with framework expectations. And as I say, the goal, accelerate your time to market. Okay, so that's really the story for what's in 7.5 that's available today. Please reach out to your account managers, your sales reps, me, Gus, support, whomever. We're all happy to help you get started using 7.5, and to learn more about the new premium term structure module or the TA module, all those things. Happy to get you going with any of that. What's on deck? Lifecycle events, post-trade visualization has been the use case we focused on. Really had some great adoption of that over the past, since it was released really in the fall. And with that adoption, with people beginning to work with it, we've gotten some feedback. Great, that's what we want. So we need to do some dial up on that, improve some of the interaction experience to provide and meet those client demands, how the panel sizes, things like that, really be definitely improved. In supporting of post-trade viz, we are adding another study, which is projected volume at time. So this is a great study for the in-trade experience or the post-trade where you're trying to understand what the trader did, what was the logic behind either the trader's action or the algorithm action. Is what you're doing is bucketing the volume that trades during a window of time, say between 10 and 10:30. Do that over 10 days. What is the average volume for that period? And then you compare that to 10:30 to 11, 11 to 11:30. Look at that average, aggregate that. From that, you can calculate what the projected total volume is for the day. Are you below or above your projection? And therefore, what is your remaining daily volume? So when your order comes in, you can assess what is the likelihood that you're going to be able to execute that today, and more as importantly, get it executed today, but what impact is it going to have on price? So this really feeds into your transaction cost analysis problem. So great study coming out here in Q2. Smart log charts. So a couple of years ago, we all learned that, a number of years ago now, dating myself, we learned that interest rates can go negative. Who would have thought that you would have had to pay people to take your crude oil? But we've learned that other products can also go negative. Negative values, zero values, which can also happen in a PE chart, of course, when a company doesn't have earnings or has, then will really distort those logarithmic charts. So we are building in a smart log capability, and that is when you see that zero negative value, the chart will automatically switch off from log and go back to a linear y-axis. chart will remain in that state until you load a new data set. So really a great, that's a nice intelligent behavior of the chart, making it easy for the user. And when they reload, goes back to the way they had it. Uh, Again, back to developers using frameworks. Now TypeScript support coming in the current quarter. So excited to bring that to market. TypeScript, for those of you on the product side, is sort of like type ahead. It helps the developer figure out what the parameters are that you need to enter into the function that you've just brought up. So it really is sort of like help on the fly. Really even make it easy for somebody like me to code. One other thing that didn't make this slide is some work on our new mobile SDK. So we're going to be enhancing that. We are enhancing that, I should say, this year in this quarter. So iOS here in Q2, Android in Q3, and really be working to make sure that that stays current with the charting library as we move forward. So please tune in July to hear more about these enhancements. But please don't wait until July to tune back into our webinars. We had intended to have a April client event here in New York, but for any of you who are in New York, you know that it's a ghost town at the moment. So we have gone to the web like everybody else, and we now have a series of webinars coming up through the course of May, and we'll have more coming thereafter. Next week, Dan Schleifer, our CEO, will be chatting with the engineers at Adaptive about micro front ends and the future of the smart desktop, and how you can build workflow solutions for your end users. The week after, Finos is hosting a webinar that we'll be chatting about how we secure the electron container. So really addressing many of the security concerns, which obviously is paramount to the capital markets when using electron. So a really interesting conversation will happen there. On May 28th, Jimmy, one of our solutions engineers, will be chatting about the flexibility of the ChartIQ library that you already have, and how you can use that to create and build different visual solutions. So really help you get the most out of what you've got. Starting in June, Julie Armstrong, our Chief Commercial Officer, will be speaking to data is the new black, right? We all know everybody is storing data, every possible data they can get their hands on. It's being stored, creating all these time series data sets, changing the trends in technology, how we deal with this, how we store it, how we access it, how we display it. Julie will be leveraging, of course, her experience at ChartIQ, but also her previous work at most recently at Lehman, and most recently at CME, before that at Lehman, and with Realtek, to share with you her perspective on trends in data technology. Now, there's one more webinar that does not yet have a date, and that is one about renaming ChartIQ. So we've built the brand of ChartIQ for 8 years. People know us in the industry for charting. Very proud of that. But as we've talked about, we have a second product, and that is Finsample. And we want these two things to be coming together and working together and telling that story together. So Dan and Terry, our co-founders, will get together and share with you our new name and the future vision for ChartIQ. So please watch for that date and dial in then. Look forward to chatting with you at that time. All right, let's move to questions and feedback. Before I answer the questions, I do want to hit the feedback point. Coming out with, as you close out of this webinar, there will be a quick questionnaire of what are the things that you would like to see in the ChartIQ library? What are the challenges that you're having? What do you think we're doing well? Please use of course, that will be not just following As you exit the webinar, you'll get that in your email as well. And of course, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Gus or the support team, your account manager, your sales rep. We're all here to help you solve your business problems and get the most out of ChartIQ. Thank you, and I look forward to chatting with you in July.